Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma, Day 6. Om Shri Sai Jnana Swarupaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is wisdom personified. This happened a long time ago. One day, Mother Ishwaramma came to Bhagavan Baba and said, Swami, our small Puttaparthi village has no school. All the children have to walk many miles to get to school. I know you are an ocean of compassion, so please construct a school for these children here in Puttaparthi. Mother Ishwaramma did not stop at this. She gave some land for the purpose, which belonged to her, and Swami constructed a school. Jnana Swarupa Sai thus planted a small sapling of the tree of knowledge. Slowly, this sapling grew into a huge tree. A bigger school was established in Puttaparthi, a ladies' college was started at Anantapur, and colleges were also established at Puttaparthi, Whitefield, Jaipur, and Bhopal. By and by, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning was established on 22nd November 1981. This is the one and only university which has integrated value education with academics. All this was made possible because Bhagavan himself is wisdom personified. He personally pays attention to each detail and ensures that all those who receive academic education also benefit from value education. Prior to this, Bhagavan Baba had established a Veda Pathashala to teach the Vedas to young children, as a part of his mission to restore Vedic knowledge. In 1965, for the first time, he conducted the Upanayanam ceremony of over 400 boys and initiated them into the Gayatri Mantra. He also taught them the holy Vedic Vakyas, Matra Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava. A few years ago, Bhagavan Baba asked a devotee from Shimoga, "Do you follow Sandhya Vandana regularly?" Sandhya Vandana is chanting of Vedic mantras thrice a day. The devotee bent his head in shame, because although he had been regular in it earlier, recently there had been a lapse on his part. Swami told him, "Doesn't matter, there is still time, but from now on you must do it regularly." On returning home, the devotee started following the Sandhya Vandana regularly. He also started performing Abhisheka on the Shiva Lingam at home, formerly a regular practice which he had discontinued. In a few days, he noticed that the colorless Shiva Lingam was now seen as a Swarna Lingam, gold lingam, and he could also see Bhagavan Baba's image in it. In this way, Bhagavan Baba bestowed devotion and wisdom on his devotee. May he shower the same on all of us. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Gita Bodhakaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who teaches us the Bhagavad Gita. In the Varaha Purana, the glory of Bhagavad Gita has been described by Lord Krishna as follows. Gita me parama vidya brahma rupa na sanshayaha ardha matrakshara nitya swanirvachya padatmika. The Gita is my supreme vidya. It is verily the form of Brahman. It is the eternal half-syllable, the dot on the Om, everlasting, the ineffable essence of the Self. Further, it is said, Chidanandena Rupena Prokta Swamukhatorjuna Vedatrayi Paramananda Tattvartha Jnana Samyuta. Spoken by Krishna, consciousness and bliss incarnate to Arjuna. It is the three Vedas, the ultimate bliss, and full of knowledge of the tattvas, essentials. When Arjuna lost his courage on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself narrated the Bhagavad Gita to motivate him. We are extremely fortunate that Bhagavan Sai Krishna, who is the Sanatana Sarathi, is himself explaining the Bhagavad Gita to us. On 16th February 1958, Swami started a magazine named Sanatana Sarathi. Sanatana means eternal, and Sarathi is charioteer. Just as Bhagavan Sri Krishna was the charioteer of Arjuna's chariot, Sai Krishna has incarnated today to establish Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, and Ahimsa in each and everyone's consciousness, and he is the charioteer who is guiding us from within. Swami says, Each one's heart is a Dharmakshetra as well as a Kurukshetra. It is a field where a man can redeem himself through his good karma. If he turns it into Dharmakshetra, he can cross over the ocean of life easily. If it becomes Adharmakshetra, he gets destroyed. The first shloka of the Bhagavad Gita teaches us the same thing. In the Kurukshetra, which is Dharmakshetra also, what are the Mamakaha, mine, and the Pandavaha, the sacred white-skinned people, doing there? Mamakaha, my, signifies ego, selfishness, tamasic and rajasic qualities. Pandavaha signifies the white-skinned people, or imbued with the Sattva guna. All beings are involved in this battle. By God's grace, those who are stabilized in the Sattva guna will achieve victory. They will always remain worthy of God's grace. This is what the Gita teaches us. This incident took place quite a few years ago. Sri Pandurang Dikshit was an ardent devotee of Swami. His daughter Jyotsna was studying for BA with Sanskrit as her subject. Swami asked her, "What is the essence of the Gita?" She gave a correct answer based on the syllabus. Hearing it, Swami said, "All this is true, but the essence of the Gita is quite different. It is dharma. Dharma is not religion, but man's innate duty." Swami also says, the first word of the Gita is dharma, and the last word is mama, my. So the entire Bhagavad Gita teaches about my duty, each one's duty. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Siddhidaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who grants the achievement of wisdom. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord had spoken about avyabhichari bhakti, when a devotee's mind gets totally fixed on God and does not wander towards any object of the material world. The devotion is called avyabhichari bhakti. To such a devotee who has surrendered completely, God bestows Atma Jnana, knowledge of the self. During the Shirdi avatar, there were a few chosen devotees whom Sainath had graced with Atma Jnana. Among these were Mhalsapati, Madhavrao Deshpande or Shama, and Srimati Lakshmibai Kaparde. Mhalsapati was the priest of the Khandoba Mandir, who led the life of a sannyasi. When Sai first came to Shirdi, Mhalsapati had welcomed him, saying, "Ao Sai, welcome God," and was the first one to be blessed with his darshan. It is a well-known fact that the sound of Krishna Krishna used to emanate from the hair of the Gopikas. Madhavrao Deshpande or Shama had achieved the same oneness with Sainath. Some devotees heard the word Sainath Maharaj with every breath of his, even while he was sleeping. Such a worthy sadhak was blessed by Sainath with Atmajnana. Srimati Lakshmibai Kaparde was just a housewife, but she served Sainath selflessly, and she also used to give food and shelter to poor, promising students. Sainath was very pleased with her meritorious seva, and he gave her the Guru mantra Rajaram, Rajaram. Besides, 10 years after his Mahasamadhi, he blessed Lakshmibai with darshan just prior to her death. The present Sri Sathya Sai avatar also leads his devotees towards self-realization. The names of grandfather Kondamaraju, Srimati Subamma, class teacher Sri Mehboob Khan come to mind. But there is one more devotee who stands out, Indradevi. She was born Russian, worked in the USA, and had an Indian name. She was an excellent yoga teacher. When Indradevi came in contact with Swami, he increased the level of her spiritual knowledge along with yogic knowledge. He gave her a pearl rosary and a mantra for chanting. He not only materialized Vibhuti for her, but also manifested an Akshaya Vibhuti Patra, a vessel which has an unending supply of Vibhuti for her. And the ultimate gift of grace was that he blessed her with the power with which she could help people facing calamities. Hers is the most extraordinary example. Without doubt, she herself attained self-realization with Swami's blessings. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Sundara Rupaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who has a charming form. On 23rd November 1926, in the wee hours of morning, amidst the reverberating auspicious sounds of the musical instruments playing on their own, God himself incarnated in a remote village of Puttaparthi in Andhra Pradesh. His radiantly beautiful face, with attractive features, dusky glowing skin, and curly hair delighted everyone. He had a mole on his left cheek, as if to ward off the evil eye. This enchanting beautiful babe filled Mother Ishwaramma, Grandmother Lakshmamma, and neighbor Subamma's life with bliss. Since he was born as a blessing, after the mother had partaken the Satyanarayana Vrata Prasad, he was named Satyanarayana. Everyone started calling this darling babe Satya. Like the waxing moon of the Shukla Paksha, the baby was growing more beautiful each day. On seeing his enchanting form, Mother Ishwaramma was reminded of Bala Krishna of Gokul. As the child grew a little older, he started drawing horizontal lines of vibhuti on his own forehead. He would insist that his older sister should do this for him. Everyone was enchanted by his charming looks and ways. When he turned 6, the favorite grandchild of grandfather Kondamaraju started taking part in plays organized by his grandfather's drama company. His unusual beauty, sweet melodious voice, and dancing skill used to make the audience feel as though Sri Rama and Sri Krishna had appeared once again on earth. Once, when a program was organized to collect school funds, Satyanarayana enacted the role of the well-known dancer Rishyendra Mani so perfectly that none realized that this was not her performing. After Sri Satyanarayana proclaimed his avatarhood and declared that I am Sai Baba, many devotees began to throng Puttaparthi, and several festivals started being celebrated there. In the procession during Navaratri, Bhagavan Baba's form looked very beautiful and divine. Earlier, during the procession of Ram Navami too, Bala Satya's playmates used to dress him up as Sri Rama because of his charming form and divine qualities. During the Navaratri festival, Swami's form used to seem especially divine and attractive. In 1946, the devotees decided to take Swami in a procession in a beautifully decorated palanquin, and Swami acceded to their wish. At the time, the devotees saw him on different days as the indescribable glowing Meenakshi of Madurai, Visalakshi of Kashi, and Kamakshi of Kanchi. Sometimes he was seen as the Shivashakti avatar. Those who were blessed with this resplendent darshan were verily fortunate souls. It has been an old tradition for devotees to sing songs and stotras describing the exquisite beauty of God. From ancient days, the sages and saints have been describing this divine beauty. In the Rama Raksha Stotram, while describing the beauty of Prabhu Ramachandra, Buddha Kaushika Rishi says, one should meditate on the beautiful Sri Rama, whose hands are adorned with a bow, who is seated in a lotus pose, wearing a yellow silken garment, whose eyes are competing with fresh lotus petals, the one who is blissful, and his eyes are set on the lotus face of Sita, who is seated on his left thigh, whose skin is lustrous like the dark rain-filled clouds, and who is adorned with various precious jewels, and whose head is crowned with the halo of shining curly hair. Let us meditate on this charming Sri Rama. While describing the beautiful form of Panduranga, Sant Dhyaneshwar sings, just like the luster emitting forth from innumerable precious gems, the effulgent glow on Panduranga's divine skin is spreading in all directions. That effulgence and his immeasurable beauty cannot be described in words. Similarly, God's beauty has been described by a number of devotees in many ways. In the Kakad Arti, early morning Arti, of Shirdi Sainath, it is said, I perform your Kakad Arti early in the morning, O Sainath. Accept the Laghu Seva, small service of this child of yours, and bless me with a vision of your Chinmaya Rupa, all-knowing effulgent form. In the Sri Sathya Sai Suprabhatam, it is said, Deshantara gata buddhastava divyamurti sandarshana bhirati samyuta chitta vritya. The intellectuals from several countries have come here to seek your darshan. They are yearning to see your divine form. In the Sri Sathya Sai Ramaraksha Stotram, Bhagavan Baba has been described as: one should meditate on the beautiful Sai Rama, the embodiment of love, his face sweet with a smile, framed in the halo of his curly hair, wearing an orange silken garment, with his eyes competing with fresh lotus petals, who is gracious, the distributor of the divine vibhuti created from his hands for the benefit of the people, calm and peaceful, seated on a lion throne, with raised hands bestowing boons. The description of this beautiful form makes the devotees experience waves of bliss, giving them the divine ambrosial Sai Darshan within. What happens due to this beautiful darshan? Swami himself has told devotees about benefits of darshan. When Bhagavan Baba comes to the darshan hall amidst Veda chanting, all the devotees, Baba says, should focus on his beautiful divine form with undivided attention. None should leave their places in the darshan grounds before he leaves for his residence, for otherwise they are deprived of the divine energy that emits from him during darshan. A well-known scientist, Dr. Frank Baranowski, once photographed Swami with a Kirlian camera and saw that Swami was surrounded by a wide white, pink, and blue aura, which also had gold and silver stripes. All these colors of the aura are known to represent pure love. Dr. Baranowski was stunned to see this phenomenon, as he had never seen such an aura before. Sri Sathya Sai's darshan bathes the devotees in the rays of love, peace, and bliss, and it is a soul-stirring experience for one and all. Darshanam papanashanam. Darshan of a divine being has the power to destroy all our sins. This description matches perfectly with the darshan of the charming form of Sri Sathya Sai, which has the power to destroy our sins and bad tendencies. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Punya Purushaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who is the embodiment of purity. Bhagavan Baba is the embodiment of purity, and he is always engrossed in promoting sacredness in his devotees too. Swami says, purity should be practiced in 3 ways: purity in thoughts, purity in speech, purity in deeds. Once a person attains these 3 types of purity, he becomes worthy of my love. It is possible to achieve this purity through constant namasmarana and serving all beings as forms of God. Let us absorb this story, which shows how Swami showers his love on those devotees who have attained purity. Swami's biographer, Sri N. Kasturi's mother, Janaki Amma, was an ardent devotee of Swami. Through each action of hers, one could see that she was a recipient of God's grace. Swami had fully bestowed his grace upon her. One day, Janaki Amma said to Baba, "Swami, in my last moments, will I receive the holy tirth from your sacred lotus hands? Will I attain liberation?" Swami said, "Yes, it will be so." As Janaki Amma's end drew near, Swami was at Bangalore, but he had promised this sacred soul a boon, and it had to happen so. From Swami's photograph, which was on a wall next to her bedside, tirth started flowing. Janaki Amma partook it thrice, and peacefully attained moksha. The second story is about a lady living in a city, who was constantly engaged in namasmarana. In accordance with Swami's teachings, she was also involved in seva work. She was now advanced in age. Once, while in Prashanti Nilayam, she said to Swami, "I am old now, yet I am scared of death." Baba replied, "Don't be scared. I will be with you till the last moment, and this is my promise." In due time, the old lady's end neared, and she passed away. Due to the promise given by Swami, the burden on her mind had been removed. But the rest of her family members were curious to know how Swami was going to fulfill his promise of being with her until the end. How was anyone to understand this? A hearse was brought to take away the dead body on its last journey. As her body was placed inside the hearse, they saw a picture of Swami inside, with the smiling face and the Abhaya Hasta raised in blessing. It was as if Swami was telling her, I will be with you till the end. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Kalpadruma Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who dispenses fruit of merit acquired by good deeds or acts. Here is a story about how Bhagavan Baba instantly grants the rewards for our good karma. In 1968, Bhagavan Baba paid a visit to East Africa. At the time, a gentleman there heard about him for the first time, but it did not occur to him to take Swami's darshan. Not just this, but even when his wife wanted to attend one of the programs and he went to leave her there, he came away without entering the venue. During this time, a close friend of his told him, "Only by Swami's grace my diabetes cured." On hearing this, he had a change of heart and started getting the urge to seek Swami's darshan. But he was told that Bhagavan Baba was returning back to India on the very same day. He thought of going to the airport to seek darshan, and since time was short, he got into his car and drove fast in order to reach in time. But the airport was about 40 kilometers from his house. After having driven halfway, he saw a motorcade of cars coming from the opposite direction. He saw someone he knew in the group. He stopped the person and asked him, "Are you returning from the airport?" The person replied, "Bhagavan Baba just left for India, so we bade him goodbye and are returning back." Although he was terribly disappointed on hearing this, something within urged him to go on to the airport, and he drove at a faster speed. On the way, he started praying earnestly to Swami. "You came very close to my house, but I did not seek your darshan. Now I have realized your glory and am yearning to see you. If I have performed any meritorious deed, please let me have your darshan." As the prayer ended, he reached the airport. Before entering the premises, he bent his head down reverentially, touched the gate with his head, and went inside. As he walked ahead, he saw a plane landing on the runway. The door was opened, and wonder of wonders, Bhagavan Baba was standing in the doorway. He could not contain his happiness, and tears of joy started rolling down his cheeks. He said, "Bhagavan, from this moment my heart will have only your image." How did this come about? After the flight took off, the plane developed a technical snag, so it was brought back. Within few minutes the snag was rectified and Bhagavan Baba left. Every devotee will agree that it was only the omniscient Swami's Leela. Swami returned only in response to the prayer of his pure-hearted devotee, to give him darshan and reward him for his meritorious acts. Swami says, "Karma is a seed which is bound to grow into a tree and reap its fruits. But if this seed is roasted in the fire of non-attachment, it is rendered fruitless and frees man from the bondage of sorrow and pain." Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Purushottamaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is the Supreme Person. Yasmat ksharam atitoham aksharad apichottamaha atosmi lokavedacha pratitah purushottamaha. As I transcend the perishable, I am even higher than the imperishable. Therefore, I am declared as the Purushottama, the Supreme Person in the world and in the Vedas. Here is a story which narrates how Shri Sai Purushottama showered his grace on an innocent farmer. This farmer named Ratudan Gadvi lived in a village called Makwana in Gujarat. He was simple by nature and found it hard to make both ends meet. Due to the famine, all the farmers in that area, including Ratudan, were undergoing a lot of difficulties. There was no fodder for the cattle, and the conditions were really adverse. To find a way out of this situation, he decided to consult a relative of his by the name Gulabdas Baro, and traveled to a village called Limodi near Rajkot to meet Gulabdas. Gulabdas Baro was a devotee of Swami. In fact, a Sai center was established in his house, and activities such as bhajan and nagar sankirtan were conducted there regularly. On hearing Ratudan's sad story, Gulab Das suggested a remedy. He suggested that Ratudan should pray to Swami from his heart, and then sprinkle vibhuti all over his farm. Ratudan, once a robber, somehow was unable to believe that Swami is God, because Swami's physical form did not match with the image of Sri Krishna that was installed in his heart. But since he was desperate, he did as he was told. And wonder of wonders! That year there was plenty of rain, and he reaped a very good harvest. Ratudan gathered up courage and travelled all the way to Puttaparthi to offer his gratitude to Swami. Baba called him for an interview. During the interview he asked Ratudan, "You have been telling everyone that a person with this type of hair cannot be my Muralidhar Sri Krishna, isn't it?" Ratudan said, "Yes, Baba." Swami told him, "Look here!" And lo and behold, that very moment he saw Swami's form changing into Muralidhar Sri Krishna. With tearful eyes, Ratudan fell at Swami's feet and said, "Baba, please forgive me, please grant me devotion." To which Swami answered, "I did not give you this darshan for devotion, but I have given it so that it will bring about complete transformation in you. Are you going to quit your earlier business completely or not?" Ratudan asked, "Which one?" Swami said, "Tell me the truth. Were you not a dacoit, looting and killing people?" Repenting for his past deeds, Ratudan once again fell at Swami's feet. Baba gave him vibhuti and sent him away. As Ratudan walked out of the interview room, he was a completely transformed person. Later, a Sri Sathya Sai Center was established in his house. There is another story about an Australian lady devotee of Swami. In the interview room, she photographed Swami with his permission. After returning home, she developed the film and was astonished to see in that photograph Swami as Purushottam Shri Krishna. The Lord says, "Yo mameva sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata." He who undiluted thus knows me, the Supreme Purusha. He all-knowing worships me with his whole being, O Bharat. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Purana Purushaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is the most ancient Supreme Person. Bhagavan Baba says, "There was no one to know who I am, till I created the world for my pleasure with one word. With the divine Sankalpa, Ekoham Bahusyam, the one became many, and this universe came into existence." Once, somebody put a few questions to Purana Purusha Bhagavan Baba. Question: "Swami, it seems many noble souls and yogis are still doing penance in the Himalayas. Is this true?" Swami: "Yes, there are many of them." Question: "Then why don't they come to Swami? Won't they miss the opportunity of seeing God in human form?" Swami: "I am always with them and protecting them. These noble souls and yogis don't need my physical presence, because they are aware of my inner presence in their heart." Question: "Did you save the life of a yogi from drowning near the Vashishta Caves while he was in a deep meditative state?" Swami: "Yes, this is just one example. When Devara Baba, who is over 450 years old, or Babaji, who is 1,000 years old, seek Swami's darshan and yearn for his blessings, we are convinced about the fact that Bhagavan Baba is Purana Purusha. In 1961, Bhagavan Baba went on a pilgrimage to Badrinath with a few chosen devotees. One evening, he called for all the lady devotees from the group and asked them to start preparing a meal. In a short time, puris, vegetable, and shira were prepared. At night, the meal was laid out on a table, and within a short time, many seers and yogis arrived there from the Himalayan caves to seek prasad and receive dakshina at the divine hands of Purana Purusha, Bhagavan Baba, and waited in a long queue for this purpose. No one had been informed about this earlier in any way, but all of them came on their own to receive Bhagavan Baba's blessings. They were almost 500 in number, and the important fact to note here is that none of them had earlier received darshan of Swami's physical form. Yet they all arrived there as they were in close contact with his Divya Swarupa, divine form. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Atitaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, whose glory is transcendent. Bhagavan Baba says, "Do not try to measure or understand me. I am beyond your comprehension." Here is a story which tells us how Swami and his Leelas are beyond human comprehension. A person who hailed from Burma, now Myanmar, a yogi by the name Krishnadas, was doing penance in the Himalayas for many years. He was meditating upon Lord Vishnu. A long time elapsed, and as a reward for his sadhana, one day he heard a divine voice telling him, "I have incarnated at Puttaparthi in Andhra Pradesh. Come for my darshan as soon as possible." Krishnadas could not contain his joy. Immediately he left for Puttaparthi. He never wore any clothing most of the time, and if he had to move in society, which was on very rare occasions, he would cover himself with a loin cloth. When he reached Puttaparthi, Swami sent a lungi and a shawl for him, along with the message that he should wear it and come for darshan. Swami called him for an interview, and gave him darshan in the form of Lord Vishnu. He also gave him a photograph of himself. As Krishnadas was taking Swami's leave, he told him, "Now there is no need for you to go back to the Himalayas. Go and stay at Chaul in Maharashtra." According to Swami's instruction, Krishnadas travelled to Mumbai and visited several temples to seek darshan. He did not know the exact location of Chaul, so he got a map of Maharashtra, got the details, and reached Chaul. During the interview, Swami had foretold the chain of events that were going to unfold once Krishnadas reached Chaul. Everything happened exactly as Swami had spoken. A few people came to him and said, "Will you take charge and become a priest of a temple here?" When Krishnadas asked them, "Temple of which deity?" they replied that it was the temple of Lord Dattatreya. Since Swami had already instructed him about this, he accepted the responsibility and started living in the temple. The Dattatreya Mandir was situated on top of a mountain with peaceful surroundings. Krishnadas carried out his duties as a priest, and in the remaining time pursued his sadhana. Krishnadas installed photographs of Sri Shirdi Sai and Sri Sathya Sai in the temple. He had kept a small container for vibhuti in front of Swami's photographs. In no time it was filled with vibhuti. He had with him an ordinary vessel for food. The exact amount of food required by him used to appear in that vessel. Krishnadas was basically a small eater, so he did not require much food. But in order that he should not waste time in cooking, Swami turned the ordinary vessel into an Akshaya Patra. Swami had promised Krishnadas in Puttaparthi, "Yogakshemam vahamyaham." I will take care of everything, and he kept his word. From the Akshaya Patra, Krishnadas used to give food to a few select devotees, especially small children were given their favorite eatables by him. Once, Swami arrived in Mumbai and was staying at the residence of Sri P.K. Sawant. During his stay, Swami personally sent a car to Chaul and asked Krishnadas to come for his darshan. And he did not forget to send the message, "Wear the lungi and the shawl." Krishnadas came to Mumbai, and Swami blessed him with darshan. He also gave him Guru Upadesh and sent him back to Chaul. In obedience to Swami's directive, Krishnadas stayed there and continued his sadhana for 12 years. Later, with Swami's permission, he moved to the Siddheshwar mountain near Khandala and continued his sadhana in solitude. Finally, he took samadhi there and merged in Sai. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Kalpadruma Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who transcends the limits of time. We ordinary mortals are bound by the limits of time and space, but how can God be bound by these, when He is the one who created time and space through His divine will? When we read about the Leelas of all the avatars, we realize this aspect. During the incarnations of Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, and Shirdi Sai, there have been innumerable incidents which illustrate that God transcends time and space. When Bhagavan Shri Krishna played the Ras Krida, one night used to turn into 6 months, and it was just the opposite when Bhagavan Shri Krishna imparted the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna at Kurukshetra. He condensed the time. Here is a story from the times of the present Sri Sathya Sai Avatar, which illustrates how Bhagavan Baba can control time. With his permission and blessing, a group of sadhaks left for the Naranarayana caves. When they reached the Urvashi Kunda, they were inspired to sit in meditation. While meditating, they must have reached the Samadhi state. When all of them came out of this state simultaneously, they were feeling very peaceful and relaxed. Normally, when they practiced meditation, they could not do it beyond 2 hours at a stretch. So out of habit, when one of them checked the time in his wristwatch, they were wonderstruck. They found out that they had been in the Samadhi state for not just 2 hours, but for a long duration of 18 days. The day and the date in the wristwatch was reflecting this. In these 18 days, they had been recipients of such a nectarine experience that in spite of the severe cold and snowfall, they had remained peaceful and unaffected by the extreme weather or hunger and thirst. Bhagavan Baba had condensed this period of 18 days to 2 hours. All of us know of the incident when Lord Shri Krishna brought the people of Mathura overnight to Dwarka while they were asleep in order to rescue them from Jarasandha's harassment. When the Mathuravasis woke up from their sleep, a miracle took place. They went about their daily chores in Dwarka as if they always belonged there. A somewhat similar incident was repeated at Dwaraka by Sai Krishna. Bhagavan Baba reached Dwaraka at the invitation from the Rajamata of Jamnagar. When Sai Krishna set out to visit the Sri Krishna temple, the organizers who had reached there much in advance found a huge crowd awaiting Swami's arrival. They requested the temple priest to open the room adjacent to the temple, but he expressed his inability to do so. The organizers were at their wits' end. Just then Swami reached there. A huge crowd was following him, and there was a stampede. Swami, realizing the seriousness of the situation, did a leela. He held the hand of Sri Raja Reddy, a dear devotee of his, and within a moment they both disappeared, and the next moment they appeared outside the temple, right in front of the Rajamata's car. This miracle was possible only for Kalatita Bhagavan Baba, who transcends time and space. Swami left a message with the Rajamata's chauffeur that they were driving ahead, and asked Sri Raja Reddy to drive the car. When the Rajamata and others heard the news, they were concerned as to how Swami will know the way to the desired destination. But will not the Kalatita Bhagavan Baba know the way? All the other cars started following Swami's car, and they reached the destination. After the divine discourse at Meethapur, as they were returning back, Swami stopped the cars at a particular spot. He said to Sri Kasturi, "You want to see the seashore, isn't it? Behind this hill you will be able to see it." All of them crossed the hill, and they saw a picturesque view of a seashore. Once again, everyone wondered how Swami knew about the seashore, because most of the people who belonged to that area did not know about it. Then how did Swami know it? On the same seashore, Bhagavan Baba moved his hands through the sands and created a 40-inch long gold idol of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, and all the devotees were thrilled and blessed with the special darshan of Lord Shri Krishna. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Siddhi Rupaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who is the embodiment of all accomplishments. The scriptures explain the Mahasiddhis, great powers, to be Anima, Mahima, Garima, Laghima, Prapti, Prakamya, Ishita, and Vashita. They are attained by yogis as the result of prolonged sadhana over many years. But the Sankalpa Siddhi of the Sai Avatar is very different from all these Siddhis. The power of Bhagavan Baba is a spontaneous divine expression. Bhagavan constantly uses this power for the welfare of people. In the Shirdi incarnation, Sainath exhibited his mastery over all these 8 siddhis. In the 10th chapter of the Sri Shirdi Sai Satcharitra, it has been described as follows. Baba slept on a wooden plank, about 4 arms in length and only a span in breadth. It was tied like a swing to the rafters of the masjid with rags. The rags were so thin and worn out that it was a wonder how they could even bear or support the weight of the plank itself, let alone the weight of Baba. But somehow or the other, it was Baba's sheer Leela that the worn-out rags did sustain the plank, with Baba's weight on it. On the 4 corners of this plank, Baba lighted earthen lamps, which were kept burning all night. It was a sight for the gods to see how Baba moved up and down the plank, which was hanging in mid-air. To the one who is above gunas, how can any physical object obstruct him? Baba had all the 8 Mahasiddhis, great powers, at his command. He never craved or labored for them. They came to him naturally, as a result of his perfection. In the present Sri Sathya Sai avatar, the devotees have experienced the Siddhi Rupa of Swami on many occasions. Years ago, when Swami was once bitten by a snake, he touched a devotee who was beside him, and it was as if Swami's Mahasiddhi manifested in that devotee for a short span. Just like Swami, the devotee's hand started moving in a circular motion, and a medicinal herb appeared in his palm. He gave the herb to Swami, and instantly the effect of the poison disappeared. The devotee was completely unaware of what was happening. He only felt a slight twinge of pain for a few moments, while the herb manifested in his palm. The great philosopher Sri T.S. Bharade has said, Sri Sathya Sai's Mahasiddhi is such that the reality of his miracles can easily convince even a hardcore rationalist intellectual who generally disbelieves miracles. All this goes to show the powerful effect of the Atma Shakti, power of the soul, on the Jada Shakti, power of physical. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Siddha Sankalpaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, whose divine will is immediately effective. As an expression of his limitless grace, Swami materializes vibhuti or other objects. He calls this process Sankalpa Siddhi. This means that objects are created only through Swami's Sankalpa. Not only Vastu, objects, but we have seen many Vastus, buildings or structures erected through Swami's Sankalpa. To name a few, Prashanti Nilayam, Dharmakshetra, Shivam, Sundaram, Trayi Brindavan, a number of schools and colleges, university building, hospitals, the Hillview Stadium and the huge idols erected there, museums, planetarium, Purnachandra and Sai Kulwant Hall, the Sarvadharma Stupa, have all come up through Swami's Sankalpa in a short span of time. Besides, even the work that is carried out here, whether related to education, healthcare, or water projects, is carried out smoothly and efficiently. All this happens only due to Swami's divine will. Years ago, once, somebody asked Swami some questions regarding this. Question: what power manifests a miracle? Swami: to call it a miracle is wrong. That which is a power, which is ever present, can it be called a miracle? But I have understood your question. What you call miracle is a divine power. This is a power which is vast and endless like an ocean. Anyone can come and fill up his vessel with the water of this ocean, according to his capacity. I manifest objects, what you call a miracle, but not for exhibiting my power. One exhibits to impress people. The object appears the moment I will it. It is spontaneous. Yad bhava tad bhavati. Whatever comes to the mind just happens. The objects come in the hand with the sankalpa. Question: in which year did you attain this divine power? Swami: I chose my birth. I chose my mother. In life, people can choose only a husband or a wife. They can't choose a mother, but I chose my mother. and right since my birth I have this prema drishti, loving glance, and divya shakti, divine power. Sri Rama and Sri Krishna had also chosen their mothers. They served their people with love. Sri Krishna even took the role of a charioteer in order to serve. Dr. Bhagavantam was a very well-known Indian scientist and an ardent devotee of Swami. Once he had to attend a science conference at Accra in Nigeria. Prior to his departure, Swami told him, "Go to Arusha and meet my devotee Dr. Gadia." In accordance with the plan, Dr. Bhagavantam reached Arusha. The people who were present there asked him, "Will you tell us something about Swami's miracles?" Dr. Bhagavantam answered, "Thousands of miles away from Prashanti Nilayam, I am seeing the Om Shri Sathya Sai dispensary and Sai Nilayam here. What can be a bigger miracle than this?" While elaborating further on this statement, he said, "Swami's Siddha Sankalpa and biggest miracle is to bring about transformation among his devotees." However, interestingly, once Swami told Sri N. Kasturi, "If a student does not study all round the year, he is bound to get a 0 in the examination. So just like you need to put hard work into everything, sincere efforts are required in sadhana too. If your sankalpa, sadhana or effort is not there, what can Swami Siddhi do?" Om Shri Sathya Sai Arpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Arogya Pradaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who grants us good health. For being healthy, physical well-being alone is not enough. Along with the body, even the mind has to be healthy and strong. Only then can one be called a healthy person. If either of the two gets afflicted, one falls sick. Bhagavan Baba's grace ensures that his devotees are healthy in body and mind. Among the many names of Bhagavan Baba, one name describes him as Om Shri Sai Sarva Roga Nivarine Namaha, which means that when the devotees get afflicted with health problems, Swami easily removes the disease and grants good health. As a part of the divine mission, and in order to fulfill the promise given to Mother Ishwarama, Bhagavan Baba established the first hospital at Puttaparthi in 1956. A number of health centers were also started, but the pinnacle was reached when on 22nd November 1991, the super specialty hospital came into existence at Prashanti Nilayam to treat patients completely free of cost for various ailments related to the heart, kidneys, liver, eyes, and brain. Although succeeding in such a huge task is possible only to a divine incarnation, some doubting Thomases might question, if Bhagavan Baba has the power to cure all diseases, where is the need to build hospitals for health care? The all-knowing Bhagavan Baba has already given a reply to such questions by saying, "Some people may think, if Swami can cure all diseases by his divine sankalpa, where is the need to construct such a large hospital?" If they think deeply, they will realize that this is not the only hospital which belongs to me. All hospitals, wherever they may be, are mine. I keep an eye on all of them. Any person who seeks my help, whoever it may be, whether at home or in a hospital, praying to me in any language, is mine. Don't limit my existence to Prashanti Nilayam. From whichever place a person prays for Prashanti with a pure heart, that place turns into Prashanti Nilayam. The truth of this statement can be confirmed through this incident which happened in Canada. There was a family of Indian origin who migrated to Canada. In the initial years, they had to struggle for getting a job, setting up a home, educating the children, etc. While they were still struggling, the lady of the house fell ill. She was found to have tumors all over her body. She was not in a proper emotional state to undergo surgery. Besides, the expenses for the surgery, getting leave from a new job, were some of the problems faced by the family. It seemed as though a major calamity had struck. The lady would constantly worry about her small children and their future, in case anything should happen to her. This lady was a devotee of Shirdi Sainath. A few years ago, she had heard about Swami being the reincarnation of Shirdi Sai. Only recently she had been drawn towards Swami, and slowly the seed of faith had started sprouting in her heart. And now this calamity. The medical treatment started, but to no avail. Every day she used to constantly invoke Swami. Many days passed, even as the ups and downs continued, and the fear of death was still looming over her. One night Swami came in her dream and said, "I am changing your blood." He cast upon her a loving, gracious glance, and blessed her. Next day, one of her relatives from India, who also happened to be a doctor, telephoned and suggested a new medicine, which was also inexpensive. The lady started taking it immediately, and slowly regained her health. The black clouds of calamity disappeared through Swami's assurance in a dream. Not just hers, but even the family's mental equilibrium was restored back to normal. Here, the important factor to be noted is that all this while, neither this lady nor her family had ever had Swami's darshan in person. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Annavastradaya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who provides us with food and clothing. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has declared, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyaham. To those men who worship me alone, thinking of no other, to those ever self-controlled, I secure for them that which is not already possessed, yoga, and preserve for them what they already possess, kshema. Bhagavan Baba has been similarly looking after the welfare of his devotees. During his childhood, he always gave food and clothes to any needy person who came to his door. Sometimes Mother Ishwaramma used to rebuke Bala Satya and say, "If you give any more food to the beggars, you will not get your meal." Satyanarayana did not mind this at all. He never stopped giving food and clothes to the needy. Today, Swami's devotees from all over the world are carrying forward the same work as Narayana Seva. Swami says, if you start giving spiritual advice to a person who is starving, what is the use? Instead, feed him, appease his hunger, give him enough clothes. This is your primary duty. All Swami's devotees have this ideal to follow, and they put in their best efforts in realizing it. Whenever a festival is celebrated at Prashanti Nilayam, a Narayana Seva is mandatory. The poor and the needy and the hard-working laborers are given food and clothes. The joyous expression on their faces and the feeling of gratitude expressed through their eyes is beyond description. It is not just the needy alone, but when any devotee receives Swami's prasad or his blessings, he is overwhelmed with joy. To receive a handkerchief which has been touched by Swami is an indescribable feeling. Whoever gets it preserves it carefully like a Mahavastra. Here is a story from Toronto, which illustrates the importance of Annadan, feeding the poor. An Indian lady living there was Swami's devotee. While doing any kind of work, she had the habit of constantly chanting his name in her mind. Once, Swami came in her dream and said, "I am going to make you an Annapurna." Saying this, he disappeared, and on waking, the lady remembered the dream and wondered about its meaning. The dream unfolded in a very interesting way. A few Indians living in Toronto came together and formed a Maharashtra Mandal. This group undertakes many cultural and social activities. In order that the activities should be well organized, there is a working committee whose members are elected once every 3 years. Each person is given a post and has to take the lead in organizing any event. The elections were scheduled for the year in which Swami came in this lady's dream. When the time to choose people for the various posts drew near, there was keenness for all other posts but that of Annapurna. The other posts provided opportunities to earn respect and enjoy the festivities, but the particular responsibility of Annapurna was very strenuous. The person in charge had to arrange food for all the events organized by the group. Even for feeding the poor, she was solely responsible. So, nobody was keen to take up this position. Finally, everyone decided to give the responsibility to this lady, although she was not very keen to accept it. Swami had given her a hint about this in a dream much earlier, so she accepted this responsibility as his directive. She worked hard and brought about many positive changes, and everyone lauded her work. She organized the Narayana Sevas very well, with the result that everyone was very pleased with her work. Finally, when her term came to an end, all the co-workers asked her to continue the good work permanently, which she did. Swami again came in her dream and said, "I am very happy with the way you have worked." Swami's words filled her heart with joy, and she felt a sense of fulfillment. Here is an incident from Mumbai. In 1982, Swami was once at Dharmakshetra. He gave an interview to 2 doctors. When the doctors expressed their concern over malnutrition amongst the poor, Swami gave them a recipe for protein food. The Mahila Vibhag of the Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization, Mumbai, started preparing and distributing this food amongst children and adults. It consists of various roasted dals, ground nuts, sesame seeds, dry ginger, cardamom, and sugar. While it is being prepared, the ladies sing bhajans or do namasmarana, so the food is charged with spiritual vibrations. Even now, this protein food is being supplied regularly, completely free of cost, to mobile creches and several hospitals such as Nair Hospital, Kama Hospital, Tata Memorial, and the TB Hospital at Suri. Besides doing Narayana Seva, Swami's devotees also provide protein food to the malnourished children in the Adivasi districts of Maharashtra. The Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Agriculture and Biotechnology at Aksa, Mumbai, has launched a nourishing protein food known as Sri Sathya Sai Poshak Ahar, which is given to the malnourished children all over Maharashtra. It has been found very effective in curing nutritional disorders and restoring health. The seed of Narayana Seva that Swami sowed in his childhood has now grown into a huge tree, giving succor to millions all over the world. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Samsara Dukkha Kshayakaraya Namaha. Salutations to Shri Sai, who destroys the sufferings of this world. In life, we experience joy and sorrow, gain or loss, according to our past karma. Samarth Ram Das has said, "O mind, you alone have stored up the past, and I have to suffer along with you." Swami says, "Joy and sorrow are equal, like the 2 scales of a balance. But men give more importance to the sorrow, hence they find it heavier." In spite of this, the ever-compassionate Swami constantly alleviates the suffering of those who have surrendered to him. A long time ago, on hearing about the glory of the Shivashakti avatar, a couple went to Puttaparthi for Swami's darshan. Their family had been worshippers of Shivashakti since many generations. They were blessed with several interviews and became recipients of Swami's love and his instruction. During one such interview, Swami told them, "Life is full of joy and sorrow. God gives you the strength to overcome difficulties. The dark clouds of calamities come, and they get dispersed through divine grace." At the time, they did not understand the meaning of this statement, but within 8 days, their adolescent son suddenly passed away. This tragic blow of fate was a disastrous calamity. Somehow, they managed to hold their own, and thought that only Sai Mata could give them the courage to start their life afresh. So they went to Swami. Sai Mata showered her nectarine love on them, and pulled them out of their sadness. In spite of this, the boy's father was unable to overcome his grief. So during one of the interviews, Swami made him sit in front of him, and started singing a bhajan in his sweet melodious voice. Nanda Kishora Navanita Chora Vrindavana Sanchara, He Sesha Shayana, He Garuda Gamana, Aravinda Nayana Gopalana. The father's name was Gopal and the son's name was Aravind. Normally, it is the devotees who sing bhajans to please God, but here God himself composed a bhajan and sang it to his devotee in order to alleviate his suffering. What a rare occurrence. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau. The one who accepts both joy and sorrow with the same attitude, equipoise, he always attains victory. May Bhagavan Baba shower his grace upon all of us so that we may develop this attitude of equipoise. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma.